Hey guys, have been working in Web3. I'm Dipanshu, founder at Asset Mantle. I've been working in Web3 since 2018. Have gone through a couple of products, high seas commodity trading, like DeFi, and now building Asset Mantle, which is a layer one for like NFT marketplaces. It kind of implements a protocol called InterNFT, which does not standardize just the interface, but the metadata as well. The like basically defining a schema that can be commonly followed for multiple implementations of NFTs. Yeah, that's a quick about me.
Hey guys, good evening and congratulations to the MOI team for the superstar blockchain. Yeah, I can say like you guys are trying to solve existing blockchain problems. So guys, I'm the co-founder of Coil Audits. We are running a smart contract audit firm, like where we are doing audits for NFT, DeFi, and all blockchain applications, and on multiple blockchain as well, like Solana, Near, Ethereum, and others are coming soon. So guys, we have 800 plus clients globally, and we already secured $12 billion, and we have already audited millions lines of code. So, and we are also currently we are running also multiple things like to spreading the awareness about the blockchain and security through the Quill Academy. We are also giving the grants and everything. If you are looking for grants, if you are looking for free audits, then you can apply on our website. So we are just trying to support our Web3 ecosystem, like how much we can do, yeah, in our capabilities. So that's all about us. Thank
you. Dhruv, should we have you go next?
Hi, good evening all. Thank you to the MOI team for inviting us all. And the first 2 hours were quite interesting in terms of how, fundamentally, the buzzword was sort of blockchain has become a buzzword, but how it was approached in the last 2 hours is significantly different than most of the events that I have been in over the last 6 to 8 months. So the proof of the pudding will be in the eating, but still, it seemed very interesting as what was said. I personally am a tech policy lawyer. Unlike most of the creators here, my job is not as hard as theirs. These guys think we come in when government and stakeholders do not understand what thinkers are doing. It's our job to come and figure out where the industry, the government, the legal system, the people at large understand each other, and there's a midpoint. Because as you know, there's always, whenever tech moves very quick, whether it's Web3 or AI, there are always certain perception issues that persist. Some are obviously very complex, some are not. And there's always a need that stakeholders are taken on board, things are communicated in a way, and solutions are found so that society does not lag too much behind tech, or tech sometimes doesn't forget society. That's broadly my role as a tech policy lawyer. But today I'm representing All India Gaming Federation. Gaming at least seems to be the next big thing for Web3 also in terms of adaptation. We believe that most of the major blockchains will have at least majority of their transactions will be on gaming or focused on gaming, and I think that's where there will be a huge interaction between the two sunrise sectors, that's gaming and Web3. The next interaction will be AI, obviously in generative sense, but these three sunrise sectors, I think, in the next 3 to 4 years, will be the core of India's $1 trillion digital economy trade. So that's my perspective.
Yeah, I think I'm outlier here. I'm not from the industry. I'm from a government research organization. My institute is called CSR 4th Paradigm Institute. We work on data sciences, the 4th paradigm of science, basically. And my name is G.K. Patra. And there are a few projects where we are working at the applications of blockchain. One certainly we are working something called VANET, Vehicular Ad-hoc Network, which is, to be frank, a very futuristic proposition in India. I still don't know whether we can realize it in India. But then we are looking at how we can make it scalable in terms of blockchain. So I was really excited when my team said that it is scalable, because that's one of the major concerns that we also have. When more and more nodes get connected, the scalability becomes a very big issue. But if that is taken care by the MOI team here, certainly we will be looking at MOI as an application for us when we are talking about vehicular ad-hoc network. To understand more on vehicular ad-hoc network, like they are our mobile ad-hoc network, it's a very specialized mobile ad-hoc network where vehicles are the nodes. So they communicate with each other, and for basically for safety and then awareness, surrounding awareness, but there are lots of security and other privacy issues, which basically that's what we are trying to address through some AI kind of applications we are doing. But blockchain is something which we are looking at as an application where the communications can be made secure but scalable. That's the major things. And security and privacy, for me, I always say that like Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. You concentrate more on security, your privacy is violated, and then if you concentrate more on privacy, your security is violated. So how do we strike a balance between security and privacy, and how do we ensure that it's a implementable applications? But my aim is not actually for a realizable VANET, but I'm looking at something called a FANET, flying ad-hoc network. That's because certainly we are still starting. Our airspaces are still not filled with the multi-tenant flyers right now. So we need to have some framework. We need to have protocol. We need to gear up for that. So that's where I'm working on. So that my VANET is my testing ground, like my POC. I'm not looking at VANET as a kind of realizable thing, but I'm looking at FANET where we can have multiple zones, networks, and other things. Where Flipkart, Amazon, they will be all moving in the airspace very soon. They will be doing deliveries based on drones. So at that time, how do we ensure that, because Flipkart and Amazon, they are like rivals with each other, so they might like to create some troubles. Like they talked about like civils. One more point I looked at, which was very interesting to me actually, it is you cannot have civil attack here. And VANET and FANET are one thing where civil attack is much easier to do. So I look at this MOI as kind of something which has come to me just to be used for my application. So I'm very happy with that. But of course, I need to understand a little more about how this scalability is achieved. Because for me, scalability is like if my number of nodes increase, still my performance would not increase. That's how I define my scalability. And the other thing that I was looking at, say like we have been asked to work on industry 5.0. Now everybody knows what is 4.0. We talk about automation, efficiency, and other things. But 5.0 is something where you have the human touch. And I now look at that, MOI is already looking at that. So something which we have been now thinking about doing, I think MOI has already looked at those points well in advance. I think it's a wonderful thing which is happening, and I should congratulate the team for thinking which is more futuristic, and then which is something which is a realizable application. So thank you very much. I thanks Ganesh for inviting me to this. All of a sudden I got a mail from him saying that can you please come and attend, and I'm very, very thankful for that. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Patram. I invited myself over here into this. So I was not invited. So it's a very august gathering over here, right? And we have representations from legal aspect, from research aspect, founders, and a very varied, a very august gathering over here. And I thought if MOI has to have a skin in the game, we should be part of it, right? So should any of you have any questions, I'm the guy who can direct all your questions to me. But I'd love to participate and just not be a spectator. I'd love to have a skin in the game and participate and engage with you in the true ethos of MOI style.
I get the hint. I'm going to throw questions at you. Throw some of the hard ones. Awesome. Thank you so much, guys, for the very enthusiastic description of the interesting things you all are doing. I mean, some of the things being part of the ecosystem, I realize how quickly it moves. I mean, I really wanted to throw a lot of video calling questions at you, Ayush. Now I'm like, oh, infra questions have to come into the picture. And absolutely excited about what you just mentioned. I mean, we often end up talking about, hey, usability in Web3, right? Where is that coming from? Where is it? And now when someone comes from a strong research background and they say, hey, this is what we're looking in terms of a futuristic value creation. And we see blockchain coming in solving the very basic problem of scalability. That sort of ensures our own trust that, hey, we've been working in this space and the technology that so many people are living through, working on, building day and night can actually solve these real life problems. So thank you so much, everyone, for enlightening us with the interesting things that y'all are doing. Coming to you, Ayush, first, since you started first, you talked about the node infrastructure that you're building. And of course, this is a two-part question for you. I would love first, since there may be I see a lot of young folks here, and Huddle's been sort of a flag bearer of the Web3 communications industry, or the domain that we have in our country. First, I would love to for you to help us understand what is possible on Huddle that's not possible on the existing video calling solutions from a decentralized perspective, from the communication side of things. And the second bit is, when you talk about this node infra, what is the value for people to create these local nodes, these local servers for them? Is this a revenue generating model for them? That's just like a arrow in the air for me to understand, because we want to focus the entire conversation on usability. So,
yeah, I think this is a great question, and this actually arised. I recently went to a panel with it was in Vigyan Bhavan. There was a lot of people from Government of India, Ministry of External Affairs, Ministry of Finance, and this exactly question, Aditi, which you asked, also came into picture. And I think the answer to that is that 2020 is when we started Huddle 01. It was COVID. Peak COVID was at that time, and a couple of my cousins were in very remote parts of India, in Bihar's tier 3, like proper town in itself, where they were forced to not go to school because of the COVID situation. And they had to do schools now. Now the schooling used to happen on Zoom, and they used to use Zoom in tandem with WhatsApp. Why? Because Zoom was not working for them for a very simple reason, is that, and they have to use Zoom in tandem with WhatsApp to ask their friends that, hey, what did the teacher just say? Because they missed all those lectures, because there was a buffering issue, there was latency, there was jitter, there was buffer. And because of that, those 2 years was a proper rote learning exercise for them, just because they were not able to do a proper call. And that's where the idea of Huddle 01 came into picture, where it was more on the lines that, hey, why is this happening? Why is the call in the remotest part of India not able to happen in a very seamless fashion? And the answer to that was, it's happening because of latency issues. Latency is really high. For you and me to talk right now, I'm talking to you, it's happening in a latency of less than 100 milliseconds. That means my voice is reaching your ears in less than 100 milliseconds. This is the problem when you use a platform like Zoom, where the servers are in US. So what's happening with Zoom is that when you're using Zoom, your servers are generally based in North Virginia. And all your audio, and if you're doing a call in India, let's suppose you're doing a call in Bangalore right now. Let's suppose I and Ganesh are chatting in Bangalore right now. All our audio and video packets are routing through a central server in North Virginia in US, and then coming back. So imagine the kind of distance the audio and video data packets are transferring to come back to you. And it's going via an optic fiber cables via the ocean properly, and it takes a lot of time to reach and come back to you. And because of this whole distance, there's a lot of packet loss, there's jitter, there's buffer, robotic voices. And it has a humongous impact on, not on just on communication, but actually on the industry of education itself, because like properly a simple linear algebra is not being understood by a lot of 11th or 12th class students, for a very simple reason, is that because they're not able to do calls, not able to attend the classes in a very methodical fashion. So at Huddle, what we are solving is very simple. We're saying that if we are doing a call in Bangalore, why don't we use a server or a node which is in Bangalore itself, rather than using a central server in US? So the answer to that question is that instead of using cloud-based networks, we are using an edge-based network, giving it an incentivization layer. So if Ayush, Ganesh, and Aditi are doing a call in Bangalore, and if Aditi has a good internet connection, a laptop with a 4-core CPU, and a 50 Mbps Swiss connection, she can run the node and she can power the call of all of us. Now that's the end goal of Huddle 01, that's the goal. But to reach there, this is what is called decentralized physical infrastructure networks, DeepIN, it's very famously called now. Helium, LifePeer, Filecoin, everyone is this DeepIN network, and Huddle 01 is also a part of it. Now to build that, you need to also solve for demand. That means how can you make sure that the demand is sorted? So we are doing a progressive decentralization at Huddle. So we have an app layer. That app layer is live right now. That means you can do all the things on Google Meet and Zoom. It's live. You can use an iOS store, an app store. It's live. It's very seamless. You will find like it's proper Google Meet. But it's just that a lot of layers inside that, recordings, live streaming, that's done by Web3 perimeters, but it won't feel that it's done on Web3 perimeters in itself. Now, as we are moving towards that, now we are moving towards this layer of SDKs. That means now 151 apps are built on top of us. Out of it, very honestly, there are 30 of them which are good. Other 120 of them are more hackathon-based projects in general. And then is now the question which you asked. So now why will Aditi run a node? So Aditi will run a node now because she's giving her bandwidth and compute as a service to me. And for that, she'll be earning rewards in terms of an incentive mechanism based on the crypto economics in general. So that's where now we'll be introducing the crypto economics. We didn't have any kind of token for the last 3 years for a very simple reason, because we want to solve demand first. Now, as we're moving towards this layer of supply, that means getting these nodes live, you need to have this incentive-based mechanism for Aditi to run. So yes, you'll be running nodes and you'll be earning from that. That will be more than the cost which you pay for your geo bandwidth connection and stuff. So that's how the whole model of Huddle 01 is. This will solve a lot of things from performance to privacy to a new economy getting created in a bottom-up fashion. And this is what we also explained when we talked to even the government of India, where the remotest part of Assam, the e-KYC is not able to be possible because for KYC you need a video verification. To do video verification, if there is not a good internet connection, bam, you're not able to do it. And that's where you need this edge-based networks to solve that problem. And that's where Huddle 01 comes into picture.
Got it. Thank you so much, Ayush. I hope this was a very interesting answer, because multiple things that you mentioned sort of understand. I mean, we've seen a lot of token projects come in the Web3 space where the usability was never there. There was an earn model to the token. There was a burn model to the token. But here, when you say that, yes, I am trading my computing power and getting rewards for it, something which is not another resource that I'm deploying to make something, sort of makes a lot of sense. And kudos to you for working on the grassroots and creating the infra. Next, we'll come to you, Rajat. So security, privacy, I think, are probably the most important tenet of decentralization. Not the only one, and we still see a lot of people talking about it, but very few people probably acting on it. Yes, in a B2B model, audits become sort of mandatory. But in B2C, we have not seen a lot of conversation happen on that direction. So how do you see first the Web3 security? So how do you see first the Web3 security industry panning out? Say for a user like me, like what would Web3 security mean for me? And the second thing is, you mentioned you have 800 partners at the moment, and I'm sure there are lots of Web3 builders, founders, operators here. So if you can throw some light on what was your approach to really get these partnerships? Like, how did you all go about it? What was Quill Academy's role? What is Preetham's role? I see Preetham going and posting in every single community out there. He's the person, and I'm like, being the founder, also being the face. That's a very strong messaging that you're putting out. So would love for you to throw some light on that.
So first of all, the major problem is security. Actually, we lost almost $35 billion to crypto hacks in last 5 years. So that's the major. Security and privacy, both are the different part, right? So first I would like to try to focus on the security side, right? So the main problem is, like earlier I have also hearing here, like someone is mentioning, like the main problem is people are developing the application on the top of the blockchain and basically on the application layer. So there are 3 layers inside the blockchain: networking layer, consensus layer, and application layer. So there people are doing a lot of mistakes, right? So that's why projects getting hacked. If you see, like a fake job offer leads to $600 million worth of hack with Axie Infinity. So that's the thing, and they are well capitalized. So, but the problem is developer is not following the actual standard. That's the major problem. So for this, we are building the tools. We are also building our audit board using the AI. We are currently using the ChatGPT 3.5, and it's helping a lot. We are training. Actually, this is not like we are something building. We are just using ChatGPT 3.5. We are just building for our personal product only. It's not public use case. So we will make a tool by the help of this. So that's why the major problem is, like we just did 800 audits in last 5 years, right? But if you see the total number of smart contracts already developed on the blockchain, what's the number is? Like 600 million smart contracts already deployed on the top of the blockchain. So that's a huge number, and 300 million all alone on Polygon. So we just audited like more than like 10,000 plus smart contracts for 800 clients. But how we can secure these millions smart contracts? That's why we need some tools, and we are building down the line since 5 years, because blockchain getting a lot of new things and a lot of upgrades, so that we can't public yet. But things we are we can somehow launch in next 1 year, 2 year, a public automation platform, audit platform, where you can just upload your report and get the audit report. And second thing, like I think MOI team is also covering all of these things, right? They are covering app chain also, so no scope for hackers. And second thing is like the major problem is with the scalability and privacy. So they are also solving the like infinite TPS. I heard from someone. So I think people are. I never heard, like even currently there are a lot of roll-ups coming out and they have only 10,000 TPS, 50,000 TPS, not more than that. But how we can compete with the Visa and MasterCard? So I will come to my topic again. Yeah, the privacy is the other thing. I think blockchain itself is solving the privacy problem, because in like if there is an intermediary, if you can just focus on the rating part, right? You see good rating, right? But the food not come as per the expectation. Why? That's the reason, because there are a lot of intermediary persons who are managing, who are manipulating. They are taking some money and they are manipulating. And I think in centralized system, there, like you can see in the cloud, there are monopoly. You can see for creators as well. YouTube is the monopoly currently, right? So what's the thing is, like for privacy, how you can own your data? Like in Web3, Web1, there are a lot of talk about, like we are talking this Web3. There are like phase Web1, Web2, Web3. In Web3, what we are trying to do, how we can own data actually, how we can own our personal data, how we can own money online. So there's the thing we are trying to solve. So, and one more thing, I think scalability also my team solving. And UI part is they are also solving. Anyone can create account using their email and phone number. So these are the actual problems in the blockchain ecosystem. One more thing I would like to see, like how we are connecting with the multiple blockchains, because there are hundreds of blockchains, how we can connect. So blockchain itself, when data comes on blockchain, it can't be hacked, it can't be deleted, it can't be changed, right? So when data, if you will put land data and everything on the government also already put land data. So privacy, blockchain itself solving, I think. So privacy is not a concern if you are using a blockchain based application. So that's the thing. And one more thing I emphasize always, like how we can tokenize the creator, how we can tokenize the human on the top of the blockchain. Because like if someone is doing good, I don't want to invest in any company, but I want to invest in this person. How we can tokenize this person who are going to build the next NASDAQ for creators. So there are a lot of curators who are like, who need support in their early stage and a big market, multi-billion-dollar market. So that's the thing, that's the stage when we will reach and we can make the Web3 a real product. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rajat. I think you mentioned a lot of really interesting things, but one thing that sort of came out as a highlight for me is there's a lot of wah-wah around tooling in the Web3 space. Like there may not be enough products, but so many tools coming for it. But when you explain how Quill Audit sort of wants to take the whole security infra and the auditing infrastructure and scale it with a tool, that makes a lot of sense. I hope more such tools can come in the place. Thank you so much. So we're going to move a little bit from here to come to AJ. I mean, since you talk so much about MOI, almost a monopoly at this point, sounds like that. I mean, we don't want to hurt the decentralization in this space. No, 100%. 100%. So one thing, that was my first question when I came here and asked the MOI team also, is what do we mean by a context-aware blockchain? I think a lot of people might have that question here, so would love to get sort of a layman answer.
Does anyone really have that question from here?
Chalo, one person does. Save my ass.
He's my team. No, because see, I think this particular aspect was fantastically articulated in the keynote speech as to what is context, right? So I don't want to reiterate what MOI is all about, but I want to rather answer Rajat's question as to what he wanted to see in MOI. Right? He wanted to tokenize humans, right? So we actually flip it around.
Humanize the tokens.
Correct.
Okay.
Absolutely. Right? So that's the way, that's the paradigm shift that we are looking at over here. Right? So the participant becomes the center of everything, and the applications revolve around them. The network revolves around them. Right? That's the fundamental shift. And if you put participant, participant 1 and participant 2, if they both interact, they interact over a context. Right? If I interact with Dhruv and I interact with Dr. Patra, the context that I have with Dhruv is totally different from the context that I have with Dr. Patra, which is totally different from the context that I have in the interactions with my son. Right? So I am at the center of things. Right? I'm not an attribute of things like how it presently is. Right? AJ is an attribute of an application. How do you know AJ? His employee number is 10401. That's an example I was talking to someone over here. Right? AJ is an identity in the applications. But you don't know me, you just know my employee number. Right? So we want to really flip it around. I mean, a lot of it has been wonderfully spoken about with the keynote and the demonstrations that have been given. I don't want to talk about it, but that is fundamentally your context. I mean, I'm trying to explain it in the non-technical job.
And I see a lot of focus on enterprises today with MOI. So what's the plan for MOI specifically to solve for the enterprises?
See, this is a real world application that we see, because a lot of existing investments have already been made into Web 2 world, as if we can call it that. Right? So if you want to leverage on your existing investments, right, you can't say that, hey, you know what, chuck all the stuff that you have already invested on and just jump into the new Web3 bandwagon, right? That's not the way it works. I mean, we want to leverage the existing investments of large organizations, right? And then build bridges for them to move into the Web3 world, right? Like how you have also articulated, right? So that's I'm sure also articulated. So that's a big play, and there is a huge scope for Web3 to start looking at, because Web3 is just not a technology, it's a concept, it's a paradigm, right? How do you get those paradigms and those ethos into your existing scheme of things? I think that's a big play.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think even at a recent experience, I was in Davos in January at World Economic Forum, and that was the central conversation point that, hey, yes, there are lots of products in Web3 that are solving for new use cases. But what about the Web2 corporations, the MNCs, the L'Oreals of the world, the pharmaceutical corporations, like giants of the world? And there are so many things that, the blockchain technology can solve for them. Some simple example, like forfeiting of duping of medicines in that supply chain of pharma. And the question constantly was, hey, who's solving for that? And we were surprised to see there were very few names, and the names also that were coming up, there were a lot of contrarian views to that. So kudos on putting that together. And Dhruv, coming to you now, you represent a lot of worlds here. I mean, there's a government side to things, there's a policy, there's a tech, there's a gaming side. But picking on the gaming world, I mean, it's been said multiple times that gaming will sort of prove to be one of the biggest areas where revenue will come out in Web3, probably one of the strongest areas where adoption to Web3 will happen. And we've sort of seen that also come into this space. So where do you see the gaming space for Web3 really going in? And how do you see gamified features and interactive features really powering Web3 adoption for various dApps and projects and protocols that are out there?
Yeah, so if you see, let's go to 90s, late 90s, early 2000s, your Ultima Online, correct? Your EverQuest, then come World of Warcraft, correct? If you wanted an in-game asset, correct? You don't have the time to play, but someone played for the time. You'll see them being sold on eBay. That was where in-game assets were traded. However, someone like Blizzard didn't like it. They can ban that account, and if even you bought it on eBay, it's done. What now in Web3, what we have figured it out is that gaming community are always an early adopter of any new idea, correct? Which is breaking the ceiling. That's one. They take pride in what they do within the gaming environment as well as within the community, and they like to exchange value in terms of their credibility, what they have done, and sometimes they also want to earn out of it. Right? So this new concept of play to earn is something that is being pivoted as the use of gaming in Web3. So this is what we think is that in-game assets tokenized on an NFT is one way. We are also seeing it has started on a simpler level where collectibles or on fantasy card-based fantasies, NFT-based fantasies. This is what we are seeing. Your Rarios, your Strikers. We are seeing simpler games like Axie Infinity, etc., which are more collectible and also playable. These are the things. But in future, what we see is that your battle royale games using NFTs on their skins, and the next step will be most likely a marriage between metaverse, NFTs, your extended reality, these concepts. So basically, it come from your collectibles to skins to maybe a component metaverse. That's the trajectory that we see in gaming right now.
Got it. Very interesting. And one follow-up question, this is something in my mind as well, that, I mean, there was sort of like metaverse was not being talked about as much, and then Vision Pro comes, and without even mentioning the word, it sort of revived the entire industry. So how important do you think the role of hardware will be in this space? And if it is to be, then what kind of solutions will you see in terms of hardware coming in and growing the metaverse space?
It's an interesting question. So, I mean, some of you might know, the Ministry of Information Broadcasting had constituted a ABGC task force, correct? And they were looking into what is how to give the next boost to the ABGC sector in India. Gaming is one big part of it. So the conversation that we are having right now in that sense was that you need three components at least in the next set, correct? One, if you're talking about metaverse, you need ownership has to be clear. That's coming from your Web3 component. Your immersion needs to be very sort of solid. That's where your XR, etc. is coming in. The third is, for a country like India, you can't spend $3,500 on your immersion technology, or even for your phones, right? So that's where something like Ayush or something, edge computing is something, 5G, low latency, less sophisticated sort of hardware coming in picture. So if these three things, less sophisticated hardware doing high sort of performance tasks, having clear ownership through Web3 components, and having obviously that immersive experience. These are the three components that I think, at least for India, is very relevant. Yeah,
a lot of local. I'm not sure if hyperlocal will become a solution here, but yes. Awesome. Coming to you, Dipanshu. And Dipanshu works in a space which is like the favorite child of the industry, NFTs and all. So I would love to understand, we see a lot of NFT marketplaces come in. Would love to understand from you, what are the three things that Asset Mantle does differently, or you would want to do differently and are in the process of building that?
Sure. So to give you a little bit of background, like I used to work in fintech, and earlier I realized that there are multiple systems that have to interact when you have to make one transaction go through. Like as an end user, we just see one screen and a waiting time, and we sometimes like even curse why it does it take so long. But the reality is there are multiple systems that are interacting with each other, and there is a huge gap in the way they represent the transaction, and the way the communication happens. So there is an intermediary rule engine that interprets things between them. And secondarily, if you like went into a little bit more detail, like let's take an example of, let's say you have an account with a bank and you wanted to take a loan out with that bank. Your bank is going to do another KYC on you while you're already present on the system, right? So what does this all point towards? This all points towards like entities, individuals, objects exist in the digital realm with multiple individuals with multiple applications, but they don't talk to each other. It's all private, and they all have their own separate representation of you stored somewhere. And that's all fine, that's all cool, that's all Web2. But a problem happens when you try to communicate between two systems that are referring to the same system, the same thing, but like represented differently. So if you look at the internet, right, for a lot of people, internet means a lot of things, but general person would say internet means I type in something in the URL field and I get back a page that I can view, right? But somewhere down the line, there was a consensus made between everyone throughout the world that a URL is gonna resolve into a HTML, CSS document that looks the same to everyone, right? It's so weird, right? Why did we pick HTML, CSS, right? Why not? When you type in a URL, you get a video, right? directly. So that consensus is missing of in like Web3 currently. The interfaces are all like standardized, but no one like exposes a standard way of consuming Web3 at this particular point of time. Everyone has their own apps, everyone has their own extensions, wallets, protocols. You're supposed to know 15 million things about how to interact with one particular application. You want to interact with Ethereum, go download MetaMask. You want to interact with Cosmos, go download Kepler, right? So the problem statement that I picked was to remove this reconciliation issue and try to build a like a standard protocol schema, get consensus on it, so that we can represent, let's say, NFTs, ownables, identities in a singular fashion across the Web3. So that's what Asset Mantle does. There was we work on one protocol called the Inter NFT, which is kind of how you would look at ERC 721 as an interface protocol. Inter NFT as a protocol standardizes the interface as well as the metadata. And at Asset Mantle, we're just trying to implement that particular protocol that solves for this particular reconciliation, inter-system reconciliation problem.
Got it. Love how you all are building for more simplicity and more unification in this space, because I think this is a problem with people who are crypto natives, people who are just newbies in this space, that there's so much to learn and so much to keep themselves updated with constantly. So if the service providers, if the product providers sort of help them, I think that would actually make Web3 a lot more real. Coming to you, Dr. Patra, and I have a bit of a less context on, all of the fantastic things that y'all are doing at the lab. And I was very, very interested when you mentioned the whole Fanet node and everything. So we understood how you're trying to build the nodes in the airspace, nodes with the vehicle and everything. What is the vision with these nodes? Like, what do you want to power? I mean, of course, MOI can power the scalability for it, and Web3 will come in as a picture. But what's the use case? What's the value that we want to bring out of this network?
See, the major issue with the traffics is basically your traffic jams, and then now a VANET can provide you information well in advance so that you can reroute your vehicle, you can plan your vehicles. So that's the basic idea, like you become aware of your environment. Like right now, something you get it on your like Google, what do you call that? Your maps. But they are certainly using your mobile technologies, not to some extent your communication, they don't look at much. But this is something where the communications are being captured and then done it. Okay. But one of the major issues that we look at when we implement something like a blockchain there is these VANETs are designed in a manner that it's an ad hoc network. Why we call it as ad hoc? Because it's not a permanent network which is there. Nodes get connected, nodes go out of the vehicles go onto the road, they go out of the road. Okay. Now, how do we have a blockchain where these nodes can actually dynamically add and dynamically remove? So that's something which challenge. Maybe the MOI team can look at this as a challenge and then look at a solution for that. That how can a blockchain have dynamic nodes, not permanent nodes which are completely identified in terms of their MOI ID and other addresses and other things. Instead of that, can I have something like where I simply add a node today, and then after 10 minutes that node can in fact go out of that. So I look at these applications of blockchain as in a very broad perspective. I look at something where like you can ensure that the security, privacy, everything is preserved, but also in terms of safety, what is the main purpose of that is achieved. Now, in terms of use cases that you asked, certainly there are lots of applications which, in terms of Fanet, will actually bring in. That is because, see, the vehicles are still kind of controlled, okay, and I don't need much time to respond in terms of vehicles. But in terms of Fanet, when there is a moving vehicle, moving things, you need response time. So they need to communicate with each other. Fortunately, all our flying devices are communication enabled already, while vehicles are not. But while so I'm looking at those kind of applications where multi-tenant environment, when you have all these different tenants who will be flying their drones, doing their services, how do we ensure the security and privacy in terms of that? So that's something what we are looking at. The other applications that actually we are looking at now, we are pitching for an indigenous mail. We are all using Gmail and other things where the data is all somewhere in US or Europe or somewhere else. Now government is seriously looking at something like an IMAIL. If you look at today's newspaper in Deccan Herald, it's very clearly said the DGCSIR, who is our main this one, she has pitched in for something called an IMAIL, India Mail, where we have to have all the data preserved in India. No, it should not go out of India. So that is something where I'm also looking at whether what is the value add we can do in an IMAIL. Not simply because the way like our other mails work, maybe we can have a IMAIL services running on blockchain, where P2P we can have the kind of network where the mails, if I want to send a mail to you, it will not go to an intermediate server, it will be directly delivered to you. So in that terms, what happens is the delays and other things that we see nowadays in mails delivery and all can be taken care of. So there are lots of applications that we look at, lots of use cases that we look at as an applications of blockchain. But the bottlenecks of blockchain is what actually like preventing us now to implement it. But if we can sort out those issues and come out with these kind of applications, that will be a fantastic this one. So there are lots of things which can be done once we solve the fundamental problems of blockchain. We need to first solve those problems. Scalability is the major issue. Privacy is a major issue. Security is a major issue. Sort out all those things. The basic problem is the moment you do encryption or decryption, it takes time. In a real-time environment, how do you implement those things? So those are some issues that needs to be addressed. Lots of use cases are there. There's lots of applications are there, but then we need to have our basic brick created so that after that we can build our applications over that. Thank you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Certainly a work in progress, but a work in progress that's been happening at a very fast rate, like historically the fastest ever. And thank you so much for your insights on how I absolutely believe in like how right now there's one central authority and we're receiving all the vehicles are receiving data from there. But the moment an intra and an inter-network can be established, there's so much information that I can also help, with that system. So with that, guys, thank you so much for a very enlightening panel. Personally, I learned so much. Literally asked all the questions that I wanted answers to. But just one last note that I want from you all. Will not ask to give any advices or something. Just in one line from each of you would want to know what is that one feature that you want to see, which you think will make Web3 more real. That is the topic of the panel today. And I think that's a question on everyone's mind, whether they're using Web3 or not. So would like to know, just in one line, one feature, one like solution or anything that you think will make Web3 more real, more usable.
No, I think trust is the major issue. How do we ensure trust in a usable time frame? See, trust can be assured with maybe I can trust you after 1 year, but can I trust immediately? Like I saw him today, can I trust him? So if you can address those kind of issues, I think Web3.
Zero knowledge for the win.
How can I trust somebody unless I interact with him multiple times and then do it? So that's the major issue now. Trust builds over time, not in time. How fast we can have the trust, and Web3 can actually get success based on that.
Awesome. Thank you. AJ, what do you think?
Context-aware, participant-centric.
That's going to make Web3 a lot more real. Okay, so more is the simpler answer, no? I mean, y'all are the first in the only context-aware blockchain at the point?
That's a heartbreaking fundamental paradigm shift.
Right? Absolutely.
So it has to be so very concise and constricted to one sentence. 4 words. That is what it is. I mean, it's really earth-shattering.
Absolutely. Dhruv, what do you think?
Very fundamentally on Web3, the perception that the tokenomics is about multiplying your money, shifting that through product and services on a utility value based interaction, right? That Web3 is getting the tokens are getting its value from like what you said, right? That you are doing something and it's translated the value translated into token instead of speculation. That shift, I think the day it happens majorly, I think a lot of our issues in data adoption, policy regulation, that gets solved.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah,
agree with that.
It's more on supply side that right now you're focusing a lot on building the supply side. That means launching tokens on day one and making sure that your nodes all across the earth. There's no demand on those. So my answer is that we solve for demand first. That means going and attacking the actual enterprise sales, doing actual enterprise sales, having those as design partners, those people. Maybe it takes 6 months, 9 months, but basically getting those enterprise grade, making sure that it's ready so that it's not a research based assumption, but actually a data validated based feedback which you get from these players, because that's where the demand comes, and then you solve for supply of nodes. So basically first get demand and then solve supply, and then solving supply and then getting demand.
Makes sense.
I think it's the UX user experience. I think the adoption is really impact because of it. I don't think it's a regulation because I think smart contracts code is self-regulating. UX that's holding back adoption.
Yeah, I'm excited for that day where we can upload our smart contract or smart contracts on a platform and we can get the audit report within minutes or seconds. So that day we can secure more and more in smart contract and we can save the industry.
Got it. I'll end with a note that I think I still personally feel there's a lot of regulatory hindrance that a lot of people feel, hey, what's the government's take on this? And working with Maharashtra government at the point, I think usability can also come, even if government doesn't come and support blockchain or Web3 as a space, but sort of puts out a clarification on what their stance is. Where do they lie? If there's a chronological flow of information, right? Because this is one of the very important technologies, almost a technological revolution that we're seeing. So I think that would be what I personally feel it can make a lot more realer for users across B2C, B2B, B2B2C, everything. So yeah, with that, we end the panel. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for being such a sport. And thank you so much for MOI team for having me here.